Namaste, I am Narayanan Komarat. Thanks to Professor Shashi Tiwari, Brototi Roy, and the Honorable Principal of Maitreyi College for guiding me to this excellent session at this excellent conference. I feel like a child presenting to my gurus. I have 4 points. The first is on the urgency of AtmaNirbhar for survival and advancement of Bharatiya society. Second, how to make the impact of artificial intelligence effective, positive. This is in the context of jet engines that I'll be talking about. The third is what little I'm doing about all these things. And my last point is my experience, which I would like to share with cross-discipline learning. In my opinion, AI can shift Bharat from trying to compete on low cost and dismally low wages and a declining rupee value, which is outrageously low, to competing on top quality, like in ancient times when Indian science and technology and unique products drove the world's leading economy. Flashback 60 years to September 1965. India was at war. The newspapers were full of pages and pages of names of people who had been killed, soldiers who had been killed. In that one decade, India faced 6 wars, famine every 2 years, shortage of energy, shortage of food, shortage of foreign exchange. My parents' generation rejected the pressure from the US administration of that time, who used food aid, the PL 480, Public Law 480, food aid to India, to try to arm twist India to give up Jammu Kashmir to the genocidal enemies. Instead, my parents and that generation went hungry. They chose to go hungry. They rejected that pressure. Inside 15 years, India became a net food exporter. So the expectations of today's generation cannot be any lower than that. Yet in that decade came India's first nuclear plant. India designed, manufactured, deployed, and used aircraft that won wars. Both the Indian Air Force and Indian Airlines used the HS-748 aircraft built in India, passenger aircraft built in India, or the cargo version. The Indian taxpayer sacrificed. How much did they sacrifice? To invest in excellence through the Institutes of Technology Act. I received that generosity. The fees in the IIT were 25 rupees per semester, and many of us found it difficult to pay that. We had not even heard about these tuition conglomerates that today dominate entrance to India's top higher education institutes. I think that is disgusting. That's a disgrace. Yet, when we graduated, the education that they gave us then, we found that we were quite comfortable with the very best in the world. In the 1960s, India designed and developed one of the world's first supersonic jet fighters. Few people today may know this. It was better than anything else that was coming out at that time. But it could have gone twice the speed of sound as designed, but building a suitable jet engine or getting one from abroad proved too difficult. And we'll go into why that is so. So the HF-24 was repurposed. It was still built. It did shoot down advanced aircraft in war, but it really proved its worth attacking ground targets, such as at the Battle of Longewala, which is featured in the movie Border. So what is so difficult about a jet engine? They all look alike. The appearance has changed little over the decades. And India has built jet engines since 1956, believe it or not. That is starting in the pre-Narayanan epoch of ancient history. Koraput and Bangalore, thousands of engines under license. At Bangalore, the engine factory in 1977, as an undergraduate, I asked, look at these fabulous turbine blades that you're making, so we can learn the same and build the HF-24's engines, right? They said, child, we are only allowed to manufacture what is on this blueprint. See this? We cannot deviate 1 micron. We cannot transfer it to anybody. We cannot copy it. That is the reality of technology transfer, TOT. So this chart will take some time to digest, but you can see it on YouTube eventually. The turbine entry temperature, TET, is a technological Himalaya, like the Kailash range of jet engines. The higher the value that you can reach means the difference between life and death. No other way to put it. It's like Moore's law for jet engines. I mean, Moore's law is for computers, and this is for jet engines, but it's very, very, very slow. The TET rises by about 200 degrees Celsius every decade. The best are now over 2,600 degrees Kelvin, 2,600 Kelvins, 2,300 degrees Celsius. They can reach 3,000 Kelvin, I think, without going to fuels that are totally, totally different. Some of the best research for this is done at IIT Madras. Where do you think I got this 2,600 number? And in other places too. On every aircraft inducted into the Indian Air Force, except for the MiG-21, I think, the engine had been flying in its homeland for at least 30 years. Most of the recent ones obey that. So it is at least, at best, 30-year-old technology. That gulf is widening today. And why is that so? There are only 5 nations that build their own innovated engines from scratch. What is common to all these? They have each lost over 100,000 people, pilots, crew members, to military air crashes. Other countries have lost millions because they could not have good fighter planes. And they could not defend their airspace. So this is burned into their DNA. They know very well the consequences of not having air superiority, of not being able to defend your own airspace. They have no illusions about this. Back in the early 1990s, General Electric Corporation, GE, set up the Jack E. Welch Research Center in White Plains, Bengaluru. People in the United States asked GE executives about this. They said, are you guys crazy? Give this to do your research in India? And they laughed. They said, we're not stupid. We will never give away our crown jewels. You can be sure of that. The International Trafficking in Arms, ITAR, rules in the United States impose very tough deterrents for anyone who feels tempted to sell such technology. 40 years in jail, rest of your life. So what about all these deals that we read about? XYZ has now agreed after 20 years of negotiation to set up Indian manufacture of their engine, old engine, with, let's say, 75% technology transfer. I asked some IIT students what that meant. Which 75% do you think? And they burst out laughing. Abhimanyu in the Mahabharatam got 99.9% technology transfer on the Chakravyuham technology, remember? Only the exit strategy was not given to him. What's the big deal? And TOT comes with your promise to kill any of your own indigenous R&D that might go the same path, might discover how to make the same things yourself. That would be copying, forbidden, unless you're China. So TOT is a killer. Unless you learn yourself, you will not be able to move beyond. I will just leave this slide here for you to read. This is what I call the Somanath syndrome. Indians today go around tom-tomming, look, we have mountains of gold. We are the 4th largest economy, $4 trillion, $700 billion in foreign exchange reserves. In the West, maybe starting from Russia, there is a saying, the wolf is always at the door, preparing to loot and commit genocide. You know that. Now, Gautam Adani is the one who's saying this. But I think the problem is actually, I mean, he's talking about hardware, but I'm talking about software. And I think the problem is worse in software, believe it or not. India is a software capital, right? No, wrong. Indians abroad write the world's best computer codes in technology. Indians in Bharat sit around saying, we are getting this stuff free only. Why you want to do all this code development? We can get everything for free. Or we can buy it licensed. We are rich enough. It's fourth largest economy. So the refined question on jet engines is how to assure a mean time between failures of, say, 10,000 hours of when operating at the edge of performance. You cannot prove 10,000 hours MTBF if you build only one engine or six engines or 10 engines. I think Indian politicians, at least once some time back, needed to understand that. I think the new ones do, the modern ones do, and high time. You need thousands. How are you going to justify building thousands of engines? You know how much an engine costs. The imported ones are now being signed off at 55 crores per engine and on an order of 1,500 with more to come. This is your taxpayer money. It's going to be used to develop the next set to maybe sell to Pakistan. Think about that. So the distinguishing feature of aerospace engineering is that it is an eternal search for the truth. How to go into the far out unknown where no one has ever been. And everyone says you can never go. We always build the theoretical basis to link reality to the basic laws of physics through mathematics. That is the only things we can be sure of. That is the only satyam, unless somebody changes those. Compromise is death in this. You cannot afford compromise. That is the distinguishing feature of what you call rocket scientists. They don't take anything else. When deep space missions were sent out, like, there are some flying around after 60 years, they've gone past the solar system now. They had to have, engineers needed a way of dealing with surprises. I mean, the whole point of sending out a long range mission was to find surprises, find things that you did not expect. So system on the ground was essential to say, aha, this must be what my long lost twin brother must be seeing. Those analog twins preceded today's digital twins. A digital twin is just a computer program. Well, not just. Very massive set of computer programs and sensors and whatever that simulates performance and failures of a physical system such as a jet engine to increasingly higher fidelity. When it starts out, it need not be totally accurate, but as it talks to the real thing, its accuracy improves. That's the beauty of it. The DT prototype comes before building the real thing. A DT is supplied with each item built. That was what somebody told me when I said, why don't we do DTs? He said, why you want to do that? General Electric gives you a DT with every engine built. Yeah, right. The DT with each item keeps talking to the physical twin and sends data on its performance back to mother. Like, mother, my twin is coughing. I think she has swallowed a bird. Example. The third is at the mother company, the archival version that stores all the data and helps to analyze the data in order to develop the next generation, continuous improvement, next gen system, using your money to sell to your adversaries to kill you, unless you do it yourself. Now, other nations will soon require a digital twin with every machine, not just jet engines sold in their country, because they have figured out this. I actually know this for a fact. I cannot tell you why, but they actually require a digital twin with practically every research project. So if you don't learn to do this, you're soon going to be banned from exporting anything to them. This is the latest scam. Like, remember ISO 9000. If you don't have ISO 9000 or 9002, you cannot sell in Europe. If you don't have efficient manufacturing, you cannot sell. If you don't have carbon-free this, that, you cannot sell. If you use sand to make molds, you cannot sell. Of course, you can buy training on their DT modules with their language to perpetuate your slavery. Until fairly recently, we had to make hand drawings. When the drawing was done, somebody would draw it in India ink, the blackest ink possible, then take a blueprint which went to the shop floor. This would take weeks. To change anything, you had to redraw and get the change approved. On any big system like an engine or an airplane, there are literally thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands of drawings. Okay, and somebody has to keep track of all these things. And every change is a big, big nightmare. Then came two-dimensional computer-aided drafting to save effort. Recently, fully three-dimensional design from the start. And I find it very difficult to understand this, but I'm sure an 8-year-old would have no difficulty at all because it would be natural to them. The 3D model can check fit and interference and movement, calculate properties, analyze strength, even do dynamics. Some of this is taught in Indian colleges, but again with imported software. They don't want to bother to learn the free open source software that is there. It's like, why you want to do that? We can get a license for Fusion 360. Why you want to do, free CAD? I have seen maybe 1 or 2 students from Indian universities. I've not seen a whole lot. They don't let me loose a lot these days, remember. I've only seen 1 or 2 who could do anything useful, and they were extremely good because they had never had to do meaningful assignments. They learned these things in classes, but only a few ever used them. Industry experts run dynamic simulations using very expensive software written by Indians abroad. I actually had an undergraduate in India allow us to use one of those things. He said, oh, they use this in my workplace, you can use this. He had no clue what it was for. He didn't know what the red and the green and everything, this is stress analysis. But he could type it on and use it. So generative engineering is the next step. An engineer makes one model, 3D model. AI, artificial intelligence, generates thousands of models that satisfy the same constraints. Does the optimization, says, this is better than that. I mean, these are the best 3 of the 10. Give it to the engineer and say, okay, you pick now, which do you want? Imagine that. So what goes into a jet engine digital twin? It's very daunting, no doubt about it, but you got to start somewhere. The foundation is taught in undergraduate propulsion courses. This is all I know really. The laws of physics, thermodynamics, chemistry, mathematics. From the top end, if you can get existing databases on engines, you can converge to reliable MTBF prediction relatively easily. But somebody has to give you the data, which is not likely if they're not your engines, if you have signed off on the TOT. Once you're tied to one engine, we can explore far beyond and go into optimization. So I've listed here my state of progress on some of these things, and they are laughable. Yes, enjoy yourself. But the starting point is still the undergraduate engine analysis. Since people don't think about what I tell them and they write me off as a crazy for good reason, I'm very proud of that. I actually got a letter from NASA at one point. They actually called on the phone and said, Professor Komarath, you know what? You're crazy. And we mean that in the very best sense. It's our highest compliment. Yes. I decided that the only way I could contribute before I die was, which might be tomorrow or which might be tonight, was to develop computer programs myself and put the results into books which I have published. These books don't sell. They're on Amazon. Didn't cost me anything, so that's all right. Now the last part, dealing with education. The digital twin aspect can give relevance to assignments in various courses. We need those course assignments. We cannot afford to hire enough people to do these things without that. This is a focal point to integrate hands-on development of skills and tools with realism and without sacrificing rigor and discipline. Some key strategies are listed here, and for each, I have an experience base described in several peer-reviewed publications. Very few people in India care about those, but that used to be something that we did when I was working. I had an opportunity to conceptualize the next Takshashila University, or the World Association of Vedic Studies. And I remember saying that the present fee-based undergraduate education system and structure in India with its tuition-based evils is just pure evil. It must be changed to incorporating a lot more projects. Here's how I would go about doing this digital twin project leading to AtmaNirbhar jet engine development. Of course, I am not going to be able to catch up on 40 years of doing not much of anything and catch up to the leading edge of the world, but we can make a good start. We may surprise ourselves quite a lot. Of course, no one is asking me to. So it's all just, I can safely say these things and not be taken seriously. The primary features are that a young naval officer, probably not ranking any higher than a captain. We don't want any admirals and people like that. They're scary. That should be the person who is entrusted with making this successful. And that person should report directly to the top of the Prime Minister's office. So should the principal investigator in a university. Again, hopefully an associate professor, not a big, huge, full professor like I used to be. And sorry, but I have to say this. I mean, I've shown all the other linkages there. In India, the primary hurdle, I'm going to get shot for saying this, I'm sure, but the primary hurdle is getting the government to move and make that first phone call. Say to an IIT director or director of some other university and say, hey, could you please get moving, get a small team of students and faculty moving towards this? We want to find out where we're going to go. Get moving on the first 6 months of planning and risk reduction, which is dirt cheap, before you actually go and do the ribbon cutting and the actual big spending and the flowers and bouquets and all the plaques and all these things. With all respect to the administrative service and the various ministries that are involved, this is what you need to do. Conclusions. My email address is given above. I'll answer long questions if you have them there rather than spend the time here. We discussed the Abhimanyu syndrome of technology transfer and the Somanath syndrome of ignoring the growing threats and going around telling everybody how much money you have. The jet engine field urgently needs skills and tool development and basic knowledge. Generative engineering will revolutionize how products are innovated, optimized, and manufactured, whether you like it or not. You either get ahead of this revolution or you become perpetual slaves. The window is closing. Window is right now. It's not closing. It's right now. Get in through it. We are starting to build jet engine digital twins. Somebody has to start it, and I am starting it. Finally, other people may be doing this. I'm sure if people say digital twin, oh yeah, we are having that only. We are having nanotechnology and everything, and that's the usual Indian reaction. They can have that. I am doing what I'm doing. Finally, cross-discipline innovation is not as easy as some people may think. It's not just words. But we do have clear and hard-won examples of how to instill cross-disciplinary education with rigor. It'll take a couple of hours to explain it and demonstrate confident, competent innovation. This is something I know I can do. I've done it. And this is not something foreign. You don't need TOT or a ITAR clearance to do this because it is the ancient Takshashila model that drove the massive Bharatiya economy and technological dominance of long ago. It is not only feasible, but utterly urgent to incorporate digital twin concepts into education and go fast forward to AtmaNirbhar. You can do it. Now I see that I have a bit of time left. And they don't let me lose a lot. So I want to tell you a couple of stories. In the spirit of the Suhrit Samhitas, let me relate 2 stories. The first is from the Panchatantra of American folklore. There was a star football player, let's call him Bo. His great university had won the national championship the past 2 years, heading for the 3rd, but he had 1 F grade, separating him from graduation. In mathematics, in the US universities have a system that if you have only 1 F to clear, you can get a test the day before graduation. No need to take that course again. The alumni were angry with the president. If Bo didn't clear that F, the NCAA would not allow him to play in that championship game. They said, look, math professors are all cruel, prejudiced against athletes. And the faculty were up in arms saying, attack on academic freedom, watering down standards, you can't allow this. So the president himself went out on the field at the stadium the day before graduation and opened the envelope from the math HOD. His face, already white, went as white as the paper. His hands shook. He's sweating, panic attack, can't breathe. But he gave the paper to Bo and said, Bo, man, give it your best shot, man. No one can ask anything more than you. Do it, man, for us. And the question was posted on the scoreboard, and you can see it there. The entire stadium gasped. Bo looked at it and thought for a second, is there some trick question here? Then he said clearly, 1 + 1 = 2. The earth shook as the stadium exploded, as 85,000 fans, professors, staff, students, alumni, all jumped up as one and yelled, oh, come on, unfair, unfair, too hard, give him another chance, give him another chance. The point here is not to sneer at football players, certainly not. Bo had no trouble when he had to use what he had learned under pressure. The alumni were not stupid. They had made enough money to donate and build that stadium. As a former professor, it is against my principles to say anything good about administrators, so the president can be whatever he is. See, all these people have a mental hang-up. Math is hard. Professors are cruel and unfair. You had to get them to solve problems, get over these things, and not wait until the wolf is at the door. Let me tell you, over the years, when we went to grocery stores or wherever, the checkout counter is usually a teenager doing part-time work, probably in high school, and they would ask, so where do you work? And I say, Georgia Tech. Oh, they've heard of the football team. Bo was not one of our students, thank you. So what do you do there? I say, I teach. Teach what? Aerospace engineering. At that point, there's a binary reaction. Some people would say, wow, okay, great, flattery. But the honest reaction is, yuck. That's the problem. People see technology as too hard. They don't understand. It's common sense. It's easy, actually. Well, it is not easy, but you need it. One more small story. This one is true. Back in 2006, my wife Padma and I went to Miami, Florida. We were getting into the hotel elevator. Padma lived in America for 43 years and, of course, was wearing a sari and a bindi as usual. She learned about this bindi very early at a time when there were no Indian stores around where we lived. She used to use a lip liner because that's the one thing she knows must be non-toxic cosmetic. You're not going to put something toxic on your lips. So I see that today's Indian ladies, especially Hindus, don't wear that. They just use the lip liner as lipstick. Good for them, of course. Very secular, very modern. But the bindi does provide a unique identifier, like Aadhaar. The young uniformed elevator operator looked curiously at her and at me, maybe suspiciously at me. When the door closed, he asked me, you India? I smiled at him and said, yes. His face lit up like a summer day. The smile could be seen from Miami to Fort Lauderdale. Hi, Uzbekistan. That one gesture meant more to me than getting 10,000 WhatsApp likes or loud YouTube chest thumping speeches about how India is an ex-superpower, fourth, third largest economy, second largest G2, G1. You see, you have a huge responsibility. You must win. Bharat must develop, because Bharat is a beacon of hope for most of humanity. When people are in a strange foreign land, homesick, can't speak the local language, people look on you as an alien and they see a pair of Indian faces. They see us as friendly, kind people. Remember that. Jai Hind and Vande Mataram.